Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really want to talk about this story. It touched my heart very, very heavy, and I wanted to just commit some time to sharing the story and making sure the word gets out that this guy has been captured, and hopefully it's now time for the families of the victims to heal. So 25-year-old 25-year-old John Matthews shot and killed 24-year-old Shonta Harris, 56-year-old Frances Neal, her mother, and 27-year-old Jasmine Neal, her sister. So let's get into the story. So this summer, on June 22nd, I think it was a Father's Day celebration for them, Shonta went to take her son over to her father, which is John Matthews' house, to see him, of course. And when she did so, and also John Matthews lives in the home with his grandmother, so there was another person there present. So as she took her son over to see John Matthews for Father's Day, John Matthews had a request. He actually had two requests of Shonta Harris on this day. He asked her if she would A, braid his hair, and B, cook him breakfast. To both which she declined. She declined because she did not feel good. She didn't want to do it. Maybe there was some emotions, tense emotions in the relationship at that time. For whatever reason, she declined. She did not want to do it. And this must have ignited some flame inside of this man. He ended up punching her in the eye, chasing her around the house, berating her. And it took his grandmother to actually take Shonta Harris, outside of the house so that she could get away from him and so that she could go and just leave. But what happened was, when she took her outside of the house, the son was still in the house with the father. So Shonta didn't want to leave without getting the son. So she decided to call her mom to come help her. And when he realized that she was outside calling her mom to help her, he took her phone out of her hand and threw it on the ground and smashed it. And he went back in the house. And so his grandmother gave her phone to use. And so she called her mother to come over to help her. And her mother came alongside with her sister, Frances Neal and Jasmine Neal. They both showed up on the scene. So when they showed up, they were standing outside the house. They were yelling at him to bring the son out and all of this stuff, and he still didn't respond. So the sister, Jasmine Neal, decided to call 911, and this set him on fire. So when he called 911, he came outside with the gun and he shot the sister, shot her 7 times. And then he shot after the sister. She was trying to run for help. He shot the mother, and he shot the girlfriend also. All of this because she didn't want to cook for him and do his hair. It took a neighbor, car driver driving by to see Jasmine Neal stumbling on the ground running, to realize that she had been shot, to call for help. So someone eventually called 911. They came on the scene. Both Frances and Jasmine Neal were pronounced dead on the scene. Of course, the girlfriend, she died later at the hospital due to her injuries. And she had left a statement basically saying that it was him who did it, and she died September 9th. So it was a couple of months that went by. She stayed in the hospital. When they transferred her from one hospital to another, especially during the pandemic, things went for a turn, and she ended up passing away. During this time, he had ended up fleeing to Iowa, and he was never caught. Then while he was in Iowa, he ends up getting into a car crash accident, and they ended up arresting him. And once they arrested him, of course, they pulled him up in the system and found that he had a warrant out for his arrest in Gresham County in Gresham, Illinois. So this weekend, he was actually extradited back to Cook County to face charges in the murders of, all 3 of these women. And so in court, the only thing, and against his attorney's wishes, the only thing he had to say was that he wanted to see his family. I'm like, this man is sick. This man is completely sick. He's held without bond. And I hope he gets, I don't think Illinois is a state where they have the death penalty, but I hope he faces life sentence for each one of them, 3 life sentences back to back. But I want to say this. This is not the first incident of those two having domestic situations. If it took him, her not wanting to cook him breakfast and do his hair for him to go off from 0 to 100 just like that, I promise you, this has been a repeated offense. He's probably always have been fighting this girl and beating her up. And it shocks me that like someone like the grandmother who lives in the home, all she knew and all she could think to do was just to take her outside, not to call 911 or not to tell him to stop, because he probably doesn't respect her either. You know, for all we know, he probably was slapping her around. It's sick. And what's sad about this is, and if you look, take a look at this picture, there's so many men like this out here in the world, and there's so many women who deal with this on a daily basis that they're so afraid they can't say anything, and it sucks. But what I want to do is I want to bring this kind of story to the forefront so that if there are women going through stuff like this, I want you to see how severe something can get if you don't raise awareness. Yeah, you may be in love. Yeah, this may be someone like your father, your child's father, but it has to come to a point where you're like, okay, I matter more than trying to appease someone so they don't get upset and they hurt me. And I don't think, I don't think Shonta would have ever expected that the father of her child would have ever done something like this, especially in front of their son. But it happened. So, my heart and my prayers goes out to the victim's family. Can you imagine the mom? She didn't know she was coming to her death. She just thought, my daughter needs me. Let me go and help. The sister, I can imagine being that brother, that ride or die brother that comes up, that pops up, what's going on? What's up? And then off you go. No one ever sort of imagined that they would be a victim to this kind of violence. But baby, I tell you, if you don't nip it in the bud from the onset, it gets to this point. Any instance, where you feel like you're in a relationship and someone, is saying something to you that you really take offense to and it's affected you, you should speak how you feel. Because if you don't and you allow it to slide and slip through the cracks, and eventually it becomes something like this, it may not be as severe and it may not be as deadly, but it does get to a point where it's almost to the point where you can't handle it anymore and it's out of your control. I'm glad that they caught him. I'm glad he's been extradited, and I really do hope that he gets 3 life sentences. And I wanted to send a special, recovery shout out, to the families of these victims. Again, I always hate when people lose people in their lives around holidays and like Thanksgiving and Christmas, because it's like whenever this comes back year after year, you sort of have that, attachment to it, and now this boy doesn't have his mom and he's not going to have his father anymore around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. Oh, my heart. That is such a, what a poor decision to make. What a snap judgment to make. The easiest thing for you to have done was just go in the house and lock them out the house and just, you've already assaulted her. What other things could you have done to make this situation, like there was nothing else. You've already done the damage, so you might as well just, chill. And I don't think at that point she was calling the police on you assaulting her. She was calling the police to get her son. But you just took it upon yourself to take it from one level to the next level, and now here we stand, and I hate the fact that, you took out an entire like family like this, the mom, the sister, and the daughter. Oh.